Hey everybody, it's the Library Lady. Thanks for tuning into the Library Lady channel and checking out What's the Story, where I feature great children's books and then offer up some ideas on how you can use them. So today's book is The Dot by Peter Reynolds. A very well-loved, popular children's book. If you're not familiar with it, chances are your child probably already is. So I'll offer up some great activities that you can do with this book. So I know a lot of you are at home. I created this channel to kind of help you and supplement what your child's teacher is doing. We have to give it up for teachers who are working so hard to provide instruction remotely and keep that continuum going for your child. So thank you to all the teachers, and I know because I am a former teacher and elementary school librarian, and this is just a new world for them. So thank your teacher. It is Teacher Appreciation Week coming up, so do thank your child's teacher. Peter Reynolds, great author and illustrator. I reached out to him via email and had a great correspondence. I was very impressed with his demeanor and his taking a look at his website and his Reynolds Center for Teaching, Learning, and Creativity, which we'll talk a little bit about the end. So great all-around writer and illustrator. If you know the Judy Moody or Stink series, he is the illustrator of those, as well as some Judy Blume books, so definitely check him out. You may be surprised at some of the titles and say, oh, that's Peter Reynolds. So do check that out. As always, it's not a read aloud. I would love to read it because I just love this book, but for copyright purposes, I cannot. So I'll just share a little piece of the story and then offer up those ideas on what you can do at home. And then you can take a look at buying this book online or getting it at your local bookstore to support local businesses, and or once libraries open up, head out to your library and pick up a copy. So let's take a look at The Dot. The art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. And if you're like me, I feel like I'm not really an artist and don't have a lot of artistic ability, so I can definitely empathize with her. And that's one reason why I love this story, because it captures that we all have a creativity piece inside of us, and it's a matter of capturing that and letting those creativity pieces flow. So if you have a child like that, it's a great way to make a connection that we all can use our imagination and have these creative abilities. It's just kind of tapping into them. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Vashti's teacher leaned over the paper. Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm, she said. Very funny, said Vashti. I just can't draw. So she's kind of feeling that defeatist mindset right now. Her teacher smiled. Just make a mark and see where it takes you. And we'll kind of stop there because I don't want to get too much into the book, but she jabs her pencil or her pen onto the paper, leaving a dot, and then it carries on into the story and how she learns to appreciate and cultivate and build upon the dot, and it really opens up her eyes to all that she can do as an artist. So it's a great story, especially for growth mindset, learning what you can't do or what you can do. So fun thing to do just right off the bat is talk with your child, make a chart. What are you good at? What is maybe a little bit tricky for you that you need a little bit of grown-up help for, and then what's really difficult, and how can we help you, and how can we learn to do those things, whether it's a skill like riding a bike, or whether it's something maybe academically related, having those discussions and those connections with her. And that's why I love Venn diagrams, which I mentioned before, comparing a character against your child or two characters. So that's a great thing to do. If you want to go ahead and start off with retelling this story, I like the SWBST. And if you have no idea what I just said, look online. I printed this online. And this is a great tool teachers like to use to help with retelling. So it's ask somebody who's your main character, want it, what do they want in the story, but kind of explain what the problem is. So, how did they solve the problem? And then how did the story end? And if your child can go through each kind of letter, it helps them kind of work through the story in a sequential order. And it's a great tool to have and works well, of course, with any book. So let's jump into the art piece. A lot of fun with art, tons of activities you can do. Again, I am not an expert artist, but I'm happy to share some things that I've done in the past. And one is the dot, of course, just painting a dot. And then more dots and circles around it. You can put them together as a whole big piece, especially if you have more than one child at home. They can each do one and then connect it almost like a patchwork quilt. If you've got some younger children at home, you may want to just do some dot stamping. They could use their fingers or dot markers. I have these paint dab markers, this brand I have, and nice because they don't spill or make a mess, and you just kind of, you know, dot them on your paper. Great for playing bingo too. And you can use those to create your artwork, or if your child wants to create something using dots, here's a flower, a little sunflower, but the dots are all around it and the inside. So just some fun things you can do with paint. If your child maybe wants to work on some fine motor skills, or you want your child to work on those, have them trace some circles, maybe different sizes, cups or bowls or things you have around, and cut them out. And maybe they can make something with their dots, just abstract or turn it into a picture. Something like that could be fun to do. If you want to look at some games and activities, you might want to try out the classic game of, I don't have it, but this should ring a bell, Twister. I was cleaning out my wrapping paper closet during quarantine and came across this little scrap, and I thought, oh my gosh, Twister. So that could be a fun game to play with dots. Moving on to more dots, you could connect to math dominoes for counting, and play that. Teach your child how to do dominoes, or even touch math or dot math. If you're not familiar with that, do Google those terms, and the numbers have a set way to put dots on them to help children with counting, and when it comes to adding, and they touch the number that many of times. So for example, 3 has 3 distinct dots on it, and they learn to touch it 1, 2, 3 to add or do different math, calculations like that. So that is a fun way to use math and dots. If you have dot stickers, you could do stuff with that as well. Those like business type or yard sale type little colored stickers, and putting those on things, making a picture. You could get some dot books. This kind of goes with that dot marker set where you dot the pictures around. Even milk jugs I saw online. Somebody had tried using the cap of a milk jug to paint, and that gives a nice squishy feeling to it as you press down to make the dot. If you're looking for a STEM connection, maybe dot candy. I do love dot candy. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but I love them. Get some toothpicks and dots and go ahead and stick those together, those little gumdrops, and build different structures or creations with that. Another story activity that I like to do, no matter what book you have, is continuing the story. So Vashti encounters a little boy who also struggles with art and kind of has some of those same connections. And then what would the rest of the story look like? He ends it at a great point, but I always have the kids like, what else could happen? What may be the next thing? And kind of continue on the story, whether they draw it or write or a combination of both. Another activity you might want to try out just as an edible fun thing is after you make all those fun dots, is eat Dippin' Dots. If you're not quite the dot candy lover, maybe you love ice cream and enjoy some nice Dippin' Dots while you do that. Don't forget, mark your calendar. September 15th is International Dot Day. Yep, there's a whole day devoted to dots. And it's a way to celebrate and cultivate creativity, embrace those confidence that we try to build in our children, and celebrate the mark that they're leaving on the world. So there's a whole day devoted to this. Do check out Peter Reynolds' website. He does read Fridays at noon. So depending on when you are viewing this video, check out and see if that's still going on. You can follow him on Instagram and see. So if you want to hear a live reading from him, as well as his website does have different resources and activities to try out. And then, especially if you're a teacher, check out the Reynolds Center for Teaching, Learning, and Creativity. A lot of resources and materials available to you on that. A great way to connect with him. So hopefully you'll try out some fun games, try out some different dot art activities with your child, and then maybe check out some of Peter Reynolds' other books that he has, like Ish, and see what kind of carries on. So thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Don't forget to read to your child. And don't forget to thank your teacher. Teacher Appreciation Week is upon us, and it's a great way to say thank you to all that they do to make your child successful in learning. And so thanks for tuning in. Share with friends or family, and I'll see you next time on What's the Story. Bye-bye.